Good evening and welcome to Sporlitics, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Stephen, the independent thinker, Keith, the constitutional conservative, and my cousin Todd. We've got a full show for you tonight. I saw Aguna laughing. President Biden pardons all federal offenses of simple marijuana possession and his first major step toward decriminalization of the herb. Some people say herb. NASCAR with Stephen, as he discusses the organization's investigation of a driver for late race shenanigans that helped knock the defending champ out of the playoffs. Current White House press secretary shares her significant story for National Coming Out Day. National Coming Out Day is October 11th. It's established to honor LGBTQ people stepping fully into their true selves to others, also known as coming out of the closet. It's a day for honoring the act and all the related hopes, fears, dreams, and expectations for the future. The January 6th committee hearing is set for this Thursday, October 13th, although they didn't say what they would be doing or who they would be hearing from. 2022 Major League Baseball playoffs. Our predictions from the wild card games through the World Series. The Philadelphia Phillies beat the Atlanta Braves today as 4 MLB playoff games took place. The November elections are 27 days, 656 hours away, as Hershel Walker, whose son said Hershel paid a former girlfriend to get an abortion, as he and the GOP continue to raise a ton of money and receive full support from the grand old party prior to his debate with Senator Warnock. Dremond Green, the Golden State Warriors. What's next for him? A Los Angeles council president takes leave amid calls for her resignation over racist remarks. The 3 council members on the council have not stepped aside in LA, even though they have been asked to do so, according to Politico.com. G7 leaders meet on Ukraine issues. NFL Week 5. We're going to talk about those Eagles. According to Punchbowl News, Senator Tommy Tuberville, Republican from Atlanta, and Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, Republican Congresswoman from Georgia, made racist remarks during rallies held by former President Donald Trump over this past weekend. Greene also recently compared Biden to Adolf Hitler, a remark for which some Democrats want her to be censured. Trump, of course, previously made his own racist remarks about former Transportation Secretary Elaine Chao. What's going on with American professional athletes? Dremond Green, Davante Adams, Cincinnati versus Baltimore, and the Eagles, again, we'll talk about it. And our Sunday night football upcoming big game against Dallas Cowgirls. We'll break down what we see, and I'm sure Aguna will let you know. Shanghai and other big Chinese cities, including Shenzhen, have ramped up testing for COVID as infections rise, with some local authorities hastily closing schools, entertainment venues, and tourist spots. And AstraZeneca's COVID vaccine suffers a setback in nasal spray trial. You know, they're trying to have a nasal spray that will work as a vaccine for COVID. Oil and OPEC, they cut down the amount of barrels they're producing, which means our prices at the pump will go up. This is going to widen the rift between President Biden and Saudi royals. And this is the last week, I don't know if you knew it, but it's the last week of the National Hispanic Heritage Month, which ends October 15th. According to Hispanic Heritage month.gov, each year, Americans observe National Hispanic Heritage Month from September 15th to October 15th by celebrating the histories, the cultures, and contributions of American citizens whose ancestors came from Spain, Mexico, the Caribbean, and South America. That and more. I don't know how we can fit it in. First up, NASCAR with Steven. Steven, I don't know if you can hear me. What was going on with the shenanigans and that play that team made that caused the person to get out of the playoffs? Who was it that had to get out of the playoffs? Was it Chase Elliott?
No, Chase Elliott is leading in the playoffs. He's phenomenal. He's probably going to win the playoffs. What you're talking about would be Kyle Larson, who is out of the playoffs now, and maybe he got shafted. Maybe it's just racing. It doesn't matter. But Kyle Larson is the winner, the champion from last year. But this year it's Elliott. If Elliott doesn't win, I would be really surprised. I would eat a hat of Nas, whatever hat he has from Atlanta. I'd eat his hat if Chase Elliott doesn't win. But that doesn't do me any good.
Why don't you eat
Ross Chastain the whole year? I've loved him. He's in third place now behind Logano. And then in fourth place is Ryan. Then you have Byron, Denny, and then Briscoe, who's really funky. He's a long shot, Briscoe, but watch out for him. If he ends up winning the championship this year, it's going to put NASCAR on its head. But he definitely could do it. He's a really scrappy driver, just like Ross Chastain. I like him a lot. I didn't think he would make it to the final 8, but he is the 8th of everybody else. But he's still in it, and it looks like it's going to be good. They're going to Las Vegas. And unfortunately for Kyle Larson, it's his best track. So if he hadn't gotten screwed over, then he would have been well on his way to probably winning another championship, maybe. But this year it's Elliott. Everybody loves Elliott. His father was Bill Elliott, and his father was the most. Everybody loved him. He was the most popular driver, just like Chase Elliott. They're both the most popular driver. And if Elliott wins, it's good for NASCAR. There's 4 more races left. And it's basically tracks that are really easy for Elliott, like Las Vegas, Homestead, Martinsville, Phoenix. He should get top 10s in every one of those. He shouldn't lose any ground, and he should win the championship. So that's probably how it's going to end up. If anything else happens, if he has a couple of bad races, something can happen to him. Like I had this past race was a road course. You know how much I love a road course. Ross Chastain and Daniel Suarez, who's from Mexico, they are the best road course drivers. They finished last, almost last, and next to last. And they had car trouble. So you never know what's going to happen. But on paper right now, Elliott is like the Patriots from different years where they were going to win every game and probably win the Super Bowl too. So everybody's looking at Elliott to win. I'm still pulling for Ross Chastain, who's in third, and I need him to win it all.
Mm-hmm.
So
if you look at my screen.
What were those 2 Mexicans' names again?
No, it's Daniel Suarez He's the Mexican in here, and he's really good at road courses because that's how he came up racing. He raced on road courses. So he's very good at road courses. And Ross Chastain, he's an American, but he's very good as well.
Well, is the Mexican an illegal?
No, he's not illegal. He came to this country the right way. Oh. And that's why we respect him.
Stop
it. He didn't come in here illegally.
So who drives the M&M car, Stephen? Who drives the car with the M&M on it?
Kyle Busch, the 18, and he's one of my favorite drivers. Yeah, and he's not doing so well. He's had a really hard time, and he's switching teams next year, which is unbelievable. He was with Joe Gibbs.
I have a question.
Who was the coach of the Redskins.
I have a question. Isn't that what Keith does?
Huh?
I have a question. Like Keith always comes in. I have a question. Would you consider him an anchor baby?
I don't know. I don't know what the situation is. You know what it is? He's a great NASCAR driver that was given a chance by NASCAR, and he's made the most of it. And he's one of the top premium drivers, no matter where he came from or what he does. I don't know his situation. But
so let me. You guys are holding me up. I want you to see this. So it says NASCAR is investigating a driver for late race shenanigans that helped knock the defending champ out of the playoffs. That's what I was talking about, Stephen.
Right.
So they were talking about, as you see, this was written by Court Gaines, October 10th, 2022, at insider.com, and it said. Chase Briscoe Stewart Haas Racing pulled off a dramatic move to avoid elimination from the playoffs and knock out defending champion Kyle Larson. Now NASCAR wants to know if he got a little too much help from a teammate. What is your response to that?
You cannot expect anything less from teammates in racing. Until they take away the teammate situation, you're always going to have that. So it doesn't matter. So like I said earlier, Chase Briscoe, watch him. He's a phenom. He's way above his skis right now. He's very good, and he could win the championship. But he's in last place. He's in 8th place as far as winning the championship, as far as his points. But he really could win. If he has 4 good races, he could win. And he did what he had to do. And if he took out Larson, that's what you have to do. It's just like anything in sports. You have to fight. You have to take out the competition any way you can, and that's what they do. It's not against the rules. What he did was it was directly with the rules. So you can't. They're not going to do anything to him because this is what could happen. This is what should happen, and he did the right thing. But I like Larson. I wish he could go back to back. But he's out. He has no chance to win this year.
All right. Well, thank you. I want to talk about the NBA, and I want to talk about specifically Dremond Green. I don't know if anyone saw it. Anyone see the? I know you saw it, Aguna.
I saw it.
Did you see that?
I saw the clip.
Yeah, I saw.
So what? Oh, even Keith saw it. So that means the only person who probably didn't see it. The only person who probably did not see it is cousin Todd.
He doesn't need to see it. He lives
Todd was hiding his eyes, so he couldn't see it.
So Todd, do you even know what we're talking about? Todd, do you even know what we're talking about?
Yes. You're talking about Stephen and Keith. I think they had a big love spat.
Huh?
Oh.
Yes.
Well, never mind.
He's
all right.
You know what? Just forget I said anything.
So forget that. I want to talk about Dremond Green, and I want to talk about these athletes and how these athletes are just losing their minds. Had they been regular people, someone would have called the cops, and they'd have to be defending their actions in a court of law. Aguna, Dremond Green was on the court. I don't think we can play the clip without getting, clocked. He was on the court. He talked some smack. He talked some smack back and forth to is it Justin Poole?
Yeah. Little guy.
And then he starts walking towards him. You know, when somebody starts walking towards you, it's probably not going to be good. And here comes their head coach walking towards both of them. He gets in Poole's face. Poole pushes him. And then Dremond Green just clocks him and knocks him to the floor. Aguna.
Wait a minute.
Why isn't Dremond Green?
Wait. What is the big deal about that? I never hear that about hockey. They knock each other unconscious all the time.
It was a practice.
Well, it wasn't part of the game, Todd. It was like in the stands.
Yeah, this is what happens at hockey.
This was during practice, Cousin Todd.
Okay, we're going into semantics now. They fight and break each other's teeth out at hockey. So what is the big deal? And now all of a sudden, Stacey wants the police carting them out and whatnot.
It was
go ahead,
like if I punch.
Yeah, I mean, I think are they teammates? I didn't think. Well,
yes, they're teammates, and it was during practice. Did you see it?
Yeah, I saw it, but I didn't know. I saw it was in a stadium or whatever, but I knew that the season wasn't started yet, so I assumed, okay, makes sense if it's during practice. I mean,
during practice,
teammates fight. I think though now in today's age, it's not like when we were in high school and we're just fighting on the football field, on the soccer field, on the basketball court. We get into arguments, we get into altercations. Things are very highly, I don't want to even say politicized. They're more like, there's a high visibility of a lot of these incidents, right? Everybody has a phone. If you have a phone nowadays, it's a gateway to the world. So you just had to police yourself. Everyone's looking for that clip, that world star.
Are you crazy? But are you crazy? You just have to police yourself. Are you crazy?
You gotta police yourself. I mean, self-control would have helped Dremond Green not do that, right? I mean, there is some accountability with what you're trying to do.
And what is Stacey trying to blow this into World War III for?
What am I trying to blow? Todd,
they're probably going to get fined. They're probably going to get suspended for a couple
if you knew anything about sportsmanship, it may happen, but the point is, like Aguna said, now everyone has a video, and now the world has seen it. And since the world has seen it, it makes him look unsportsmanlike, and he needs to be punished for doing
it. That's part of his MO and brand too. You don't want to mess with Dremond Green. He just, he's one of those guys that'll punch you in the mouth if you don't like you. I'm not saying it's right, but I mean,
if anybody was going to do it, it would have been Dremond. That's his personality, Todd. Yeah. He's not going to take any crap. He'll punch you in the face. So what happened was he got in the man's face, and then he got pushed, and then he didn't push back. He did a Superman punch where he flew through the air and punched him right in his face. I mean, it was brutal. It was really brutal. And
I've always said, I told my son this. If comes at you, you defend yourself. Now, I will say this: he came at him, because. The guy pushed him away from him, and he just came back.
Yeah, he pushed him away, but he didn't hit him. He pushed him away. That punch was brutal. And that's supposed to be your teammate. That's supposed to be your friend.
Yeah.
So this is for educational purposes. So let's see if I can play this by TMZ, if they'll let me play this, or they'll sucker punch us in the face for playing this.
They won't sucker punch, really.
So now just look at it. Keep looking at the screen. Let me see if I can make it bigger. Bless you. There we go. And you'll see. Keep watching. There you see him walking. You'll see the coach come right on over. See the coach? See the coach and see the coach?
Yes.
There you go. There you go.
Woo.
Outrageous.
Yeah, that was kind of messed up. Yeah, I mean, I saw this clip before, but I didn't see from the beginning. He's like, "Get off me!" Oh,
that's uncalled for. You can't hit nobody like that, man. That's.
Well, I mean, yeah, he didn't even.
I don't care what he was saying.
That's not even.
What they do in the street?
I like to see him hit LeBron like that.
It didn't matter who you really hit. I mean, you hit somebody like that, you're not even showing any constraint right at that point. You're right.
That's
this is what I mean. He's bringing something off the court into the court? What would make him so angry that he would do that to someone? And what type of future does he have with the Golden State Warriors doing that? I mean, it sounds like to me he'd be out of there. Nas, let me hear. Let me hear what Nas has to say.
I'm not gonna. We're talking about $1 million contracts, man. This is gonna be interesting. But I think at a minimum, he's probably gonna be suspended for a while.
Go ahead, Nas.
It was nasty. That was nasty.
Nas.
No, they were talking. I was waiting on them to finish. They got it. But no, you asked what would make somebody that mad. Well, about $100 million. Jordan Poole is a player on the rise who's going to be signing a really big contract. And Draymond is the elder statesman, basically, of the Golden State Warriors. This is why, in his apology, he said, kind of, I failed as a man, I failed as a teammate. This is one of the young guys who I saw basically as a teen come in here and helped in his development and everything else. So you can't be somebody's like big brother figure.
A mentor, and be punching him down like that.
Right. So Draymond was dead wrong for what he did. And the other part of this is, and this is something like within NBA circles, bigs versus littles. Like bigs don't fight littles. If you're a power forward or a center, you don't fight a point guard. Draymond's about 6'9", 260. Jordan Poole's about 6'2", 170 at best. So really little guy, which is why he flew the way he did when he got punched. So Draymond was dead wrong for this. But there's so many other interesting parts about the story. For one, if you're a Golden State Warriors regular employee making a regular man's salary and you get this lotto ticket to sell to TMZ, do you do it? Clearly, this employee said, man, to hell with that. I'm selling the tape. So dude sold the tape. I don't know who that is. They're trying to figure it out. Of course, they're going to fire him. I guess he don't care because he obviously made his money. And that's why we actually got to see footage of it, which made it worse because Jordan Poole, of course, is a little embarrassed about it.
I would be too. That's horrible.
Hold on, Stacey. Next day, he goes out and shows why he's possibly going to get this $100 million. And then the other part, and this is the unsaid that people ain't really saying, Draymond is a little older. He's starting to decline. His value is mostly intangibles. Is Golden State really going to invest in Draymond Green for the back half of his career while they got some of these young guys who they'd rather resign? And is there a little bit of tension there when you know how somebody can only see you one way? So
right.
You see somebody as a little young flunky, but now you kind of have to look at him as an integral part to the team,
right?
Possibly a future superstar,
right? He's trying to put him back in his place.
Yeah, see, and that's the part where it's like, damn, Dre, you really messed up here. And then there were some comments from other NBA players where somebody openly said, shout out to the boy Brandon from Milwaukee, for Brandon Jennings, former point guard. He said, when we were in, I think it was Vegas, he said, when Tristan Thompson slapped Draymond in the face, he didn't do nothing. Well, that's another big guy, similar to Draymond's size, weight, and everything else. He claims Draymond didn't do anything, but for this little guard, he wants all the smoke and is going to punch him in the face the way he did. So the Warriors are going to suspend him, possibly fine him, because it's going to be handled internally, I'm guessing, as far as the NBA. And just because this story is the Twilight Zone, the head coach who ran over to break everything up, Steve Kerr, who was famously punched in the face in practice by Michael Jordan. So this story is hilarious. You see what I'm saying? But
that's why he went over there. That's why he went over there, because he knew what was going to happen. He heard all that smack talking, and he said he had a flashback of Jordan.
Yeah,
coming.
But he didn't get in the way either. It ain't like he jumped in the way.
No, he stood back.
Yeah, he's not stupid. He's not stupid.
He's like, what's going on over here?
He knew what happened to him. That's why he got over there. But the point is,
he's smart.
But this is going to be handled internally. Draymond will probably finish the season there and possibly go somewhere else next year.
But who's going to pick him up? And for what amount of money? Nobody wants to pick that up. I wouldn't want to pick that up.
He still has talent. He still has talent.
Draymond's going to go to the Hall of Fame now. Let's not act like he can't play basketball.
Right.
He's a really good player.
Yeah, but you tarnish your talent with your temperament. Oh, I like
standing on the shoulders of
tarnish
Charles Oakley.
Talent with your
Charles
temperament.
Oakley, all the trash
that was good.
And the big men and the guys that they'll punch you in the face and get kicked out the garden.
They're all talking.
They've heard and seen worse.
It's like hockey.
Like things get tough and competitive.
Some teams will want him for that.
Well, that's
he's still a competitor.
crazy. Since Nas is talking, let him continue crying about how his Braves lost to the Phillies.
Oh, yeah.
Here we go. Yeah, look, I don't know what to say, man. My man Maxie, I don't know if he was drinking. My man couldn't find the strike zone. This was a terrible game by the Braves. They rallied to make it close where they almost came back. But, yeah, this was embarrassing, man. At home. And middle finger to MLB for making the defending champions play their first home game on a Tuesday afternoon at 1 p.m. instead of prime time.
As Todd would say, ha, 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 ha.
Yeah,
Aguna, what
that.
are you showing us in the video?
Hey, this is the Philly fanatic. Finish the fight. I know Nas is on the phone, but you can eat the Philly fanatic hat here. But right now we took game one. And at the end of the day, we only needed one game in Atlanta, right? And then we just finished it at home. But let's see, that's a lot of pressure for game two. I do think the Braves are going to come out and they're not going to get I don't think they're going to lose 2 games in a row at home. I think that's kind of, a stretch. But the Phillies, they got around a late rally. But Harper, look, it's going to be a good day in Philadelphia. It looks like October belongs to Philadelphia with the Flyers. Well, I don't know about the Flyers. The Phillies, the Eagles.
Right. You don't know
Union,
a lot about sports.
The Philadelphia Union are the number 1 seed in the MLS. So, it's going to be October.
MLS.
Right now.
Ask Cousin Todd. What is the MLS?
Of Philadelphia. October
Ask
is
Cousin Todd. What is the MLS? He doesn't even know.
Would you
nobody knows. It comes on ESPN at 4 a.m. Ain't nobody watching that.
MLS.
Well, that's
what
the
is
championship. Wasn't that the last? No, actually, the Braves were. But before the Braves, Atlanta United was the last championship the city of Atlanta had seen in a while. So I think you better respect the game.
Respect that game, Nas. What were you saying, Cousin Todd?
Oh, I was going to. Do you want me to answer your question?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
MLS stands for Milk Less Stacy. Now, I want to also.
Oh my goodness. My love for Steven. I thought you were going to say my love for Steven.
Oh, that was even better.
Yeah.
But I would have to say.
Stacy, your cousin. You love your cousin.
Or I was going to say.
I love everybody.
I love it. Thank you, Aguna. I know you do, Aguna.
I do.
Okay, are we still into sports?
Don't bother you, Cousin Todd. It's amateur level soccer that the rest of the world that loves soccer don't care about. That's what it is. Bottom of the barrel.
We're still in sport because we haven't talked about
hating
the NFL
on the sport
yet.
And put Atlanta on the map. That sport put Atlanta on the map.
We haven't talked about the NFL yet, Todd. We're still in sports.
Yeah, I'm waiting to comment on sports. So go on.
All right. NFL. We'll start with let's start with, since we're going to continue this process, to start with losers. Go ahead, Nas. Tell us about the Falcons.
Oh, beautiful job by the Falcons. Shout out to that ref that called that penalty on a clear, plain sack on Tom Brady. Wow. Again, I need the Falcons to lose. We need a draft pick. We trying to get a quarterback. So, unfortunately, this team keeps trying to steal wins, and I don't like it. But, yeah, great game. We lost. Great call, Jerome Boger. Protect Tom Brady if you got to. I don't care. Just make sure the Falcons lose. Good job.
Thank you. Now we're going to the next team, the Washington Commanders. Steven.
Well, our coach, Riviera, he threw Carson Wentz under the bus. They said, "What's wrong with your team compared to everybody else in your little, the Cowboys and the Giants and the Eagles? What's wrong with your team?" He said, "The quarterback. That's what's wrong." That's what Rivera said. Rivera needs to be fired. He's a piece of garbage. You don't need him. You know why he was a good coach in Carolina? Because he had CMC, the best running back ever at the time. That's why he had I don't know, Commodores, Commodes, whatever you call them. They're the Commodes until they can win a game. So that's why this coach needs to go. Everybody loved him because he was sick and was like, "Oh, we feel sorry for him, so we'll keep him around." But why are we keeping him around? He's a horrible coach, and he threw the quarterback under the bus. So we don't need him anymore. We don't want him anymore.
Oh my God.
The team would be better without him. And we had our running back that we drafted in a high draft this year. He was in he got shot when somebody was trying to rob him, take his car, and he came back for the first time this week. He didn't do too much, but it was really good for the team. The team has we have a lot of great players, or they have a lot of great players. I'm still trying to get cool with the Commodores or the
you can't give them up.
Commanders, but they're killing me because they've won one game, and Carolina fired their coach. We're waiting for them to fire our coach. Riviera, I'm not an ageist, but he's too old. We need one of these hotshot coaches like everybody else that's under 45 years old, that's analytics and knows what's going on, and they can get with the game and make better decisions than Rivera. He doesn't have what it takes. He's got to go.
Thank you. Thank you.
Teams in a row game, and you don't think there's some validity to what he said about Carson Wentz? You're gonna blame the coach?
Yeah, I mean,
I know there's validity, but you don't do that to a man. You don't do that to him. You say there's things we need to change about the team, there's things we need to make better, but you don't individually call people out on the team. It's bullshit.
Well, Todd calls you out all the time.
What do you say?
Well, Todd calls you out all the time, Stephen. You're on the team, and Todd calls you out all the time. But let's look at this.
He ain't have to embarrass Carson like that. But what is it about Carson Wentz that everybody who gets him hates his guts and eventually wants to get rid of him?
So I'm showing. Wait a minute. I'm showing a page where it says ESPN.com. The Carolina Panthers fire coach Matt Rule after a 1-4 start. People's jobs aren't necessarily guaranteed. But, when Stephen had said to me, and then you can go Aguna after I say this, when Stephen said to all of us, don't throw him under the boat. Why do we have to have a coach so long we don't like? We had Big Red forever. No, and he wasn't winning nothing. We went to the Super Bowl one time, but they kept him forever. People, you have no choice. The owners decide how long you have a coach, regardless of whether or not the coach is doing good.
Instead of the worm killing Donovan McNabb? That's interesting, Philly.
Go ahead, Aguna.
Okay, so real quick, I know Nas in Atlanta, I don't think there's anything saving them, but for the Commanders over here, I mean, Wentz made a really bad judgment call inside the 5-yard line, game on the line. He just threw an interception. It could have been a touchdown. It could have been a go-ahead touchdown. They could have actually won the game. So, Coach Riviera, he's not an offensive guy. He's a defensive guy, right? And he's not. And the thing that why he struggled so much because he had Cam Newton. He lucked up and got Cam Newton and rode him, throughout his career. He only really funny thing about it in Carolina, he only had 2 winning seasons in Carolina. And one of them happened to be the one that he went to the Super Bowl 15-1. So that's his reputation, just like similar to Jeff Fisher. Jeff Fisher had some great seasons in Tennessee, never got to the big game, never won anything. Or he got to the big game one time, but never won anything. So, yeah, I mean, I think Rivera's a good coach? Again, it may be time to change it, but he was coming in on his reputation. As far as Matt Rule, this is one of those things where you got these college coaches getting paid big time money to come in here. And I don't know if you guys remember it, but when Carolina brought in Matt Rule, they gave him one of the highest contracts for a head coach ever. Sight unseen, similar to like Chip Kelly, where they're like, okay, you're coming in here and you're supposed to change the culture.
He gets that 40.
And so here's the thing, right? So he's getting paid more than some of these coaches that have actually won division titles, that have actually gone to the playoffs, that have actually gone to Super Bowls. He's coming in there sight unseen, getting paid this big. Culturally, the NFL was going to reject him. He has to lead men. He can't lead the same thing that happened to Chip Kelly. Even though Chip Kelly came in there with some innovative solutions that the league actually embraced, they rejected him and they took his playbook and they applied it to other places and people got successful off of it. So Matt Rule, again, he was in a pretty much, he was in a bad situation. So now, if we could talk about my Philadelphia Eagles for a second and some of the things that they're going to do and some of the things that, the position they put themselves in. And it was an ugly win, but it was a win. The kicker missed the field goal, but we should have never been in that position. But I always recall, when we had those successful seasons, there were always moments in which we won games that really shouldn't have really happened, right? Westbrook taking a punt to the house, D-Jack taking a punt to the house. You got, Shaky Jakey hitting a 60-yard field goal against the Giants. That was one of those moments where you're like, dang, we may be a team of destiny here. The kicker missed, right? We walk off the field in Arizona, where Brian Dawkins played his last game at the, in the Arizona, so it was erasing a lot of demons this year, going up against former coaches, former players, so it seems like Philadelphia's on a good track. It's going to be a test this weekend, but we really should not lose. If the NFL is real, okay, and there's not any shenanigans going on, there's no way a backup quarterback should come into Philadelphia and win, throwing 100. He only threw 100 yards against the Rams. Now, granted, the Cowboys are on a roll. We got the defense going. You got things going on, but they really haven't played anybody that's, was on the up and up. The Rams, again, they were a mercenary team. So a year after the Super Bowl, you're looking at a decline. The Cincinnati.
Who have the Eagles? Who have the Eagles played?
Who have the Eagles played? Okay, so we played Jacksonville, right? Jacksonville, they have a losing record now, but at the time they were 2-1. We played the Washington Commanders. At the time they were undefeated or whatever. I don't know what they were, but at the end of the day, not just who we played is how we've also won. I mean, we've dominated these teams and we've not made mistakes. You've seen the Cowboys. The Cowboys have played some really crappy teams, and they just done just enough not to lose. They haven't really gone out there as an offense. I'm talking about in the offense, going out there and really punching somebody in the mouth and beating them. I don't think Cooper Rush, again, any given Sunday, I get it. The Eagles offensive line has some, is nicked up a little bit. So there's some opportunity there. But the corners for the Cowboys cannot cover the Eagles receivers. We have one of the best receiving corners in the league. We got one of the best running games.
I think you're right.
They struggle against the run. The Cowboys defense struggles against the run. Jalen Hurts isn't like dropping back 50 times a game trying to throw down the field. And the Eagles have a very good defense. They're underrated at defense. We got two of the two best corner combos in the league. We got our linebacking core is solid. Our front four is solid. Our safeties have been playing solid. So if you think about what CeeDee Lamb had less than 100 yards receiving. He had like 50 some odd yards receiving. Zeke Elliott had like 50 yards rushing. I just don't see them coming into Philly with that type of offensive productivity and winning games, especially when the Eagles aren't making mistakes on the offensive side of the ball. So if their defense comes out here and punches us in the mouth at home, so be it.
On Sunday night football?
On Sunday night.
In our house?
You have the best.
In our house?
In our house.
In our house?
I will be front
number one quarterback.
Number one quarterback with the Cowboys team.
Line thing that y'all haven't heard offensive linemen is kind of important. You saw in the Arizona game, you guys just did screens and quick outs all night, which is why AJ Brown didn't get many catches because that line was banged up and they didn't think they could protect. Now that Cowboy D line is for real. So, y'all probably gonna do a game plan similar to that unless one of those guys comes back from the O-line. But that O-line issue is a real issue, though. Come on now.
I'm not saying it isn't. I'm not saying it isn't. Right. But I also say this. Right. We're a run-first team. We're not necessarily a team that's going to sit there and air it out on you anyway. So, yeah, A.J. Brown didn't get a lot of the touches, but at the same time, they're doubling Brown now. And see, when you double Brown, you see Smith is going to eat. And if you double Smith or you try to double Smith, you still got Goddard underneath. So they're going to go to the tight end. They'll sneak him out. When they do max protection, maybe have two tight end sets, maybe sneak Dallas Goedert out. And see, Michael Parsons is going to have to make a decision. Is he going to drop back into coverage, come in there, plug the gap, or he's going to, he's going to cover Dallas Goedert. And Dallas Goedert is a good receiver too. So it's a lot of ways.
Yeah, but the problem with Dallas Goedert is he can't run. So he's throwing it to him as an option, But the boy don't have no legs. He can't run fast. He's not a fast runner.
He's one of our leading receivers. What are you talking about? He's fine. He's not.
He's not fast.
He's
not a fast runner. Yeah, he's a tight end, and he
what
plays
do you
like
want?
it.
So
I want him to be able to get some speed up instead of just catching it, taking a few steps, and falling.
Stacey, you know, Dallas Goedert is one of the top 5 tight ends in the league right now. Okay, so you're saying I mean,
think he's overrated.
Owners,
I'm glad he plays.
But,
wait a minute, I'm glad he plays for the Eagles, but I think he's overrated. Besides, he grew up a Dallas fan. That's why he was named Dallas.
Y'all are undefeated, and she's still upset.
I know this is a Negadelphian. This is a Negadelphian. What you're seeing here, live audience, is a Negadelphian. You know, this is what we do.
Oh,
right?
never.
We complain about being 5-0. You complain about top 5 tight end. You complain about having quarterback.
Yes,
Dallas
ever.
Goedert might have 7 catches against the Cowboys because they're going to concede that. They're going to give that up. But they're coming out.
I'll take that all day. I'll take that all day.
And see, that's another problem. This is the problem with the NFL. Why don't they? And I must say, I heard this from Stephen A. It wasn't my idea. This was Stephen A. He said, put a flag tag on the quarterback instead of going after your quarterback. Because when these guys, these safeties and these other guys, defensive line, go after your quarterback, they can really hurt them, which is a horrible thing. And like you just said, Nas, they're going to run after Jalen. They're going to try to get him down.
They're going to try to hurt him. I mean, but
they're going to try to hurt him, and they should never do that.
This is nothing new, right? So I think they were sending a message to the league with these ticky-tack fouls. You saw one last night when clearly, you know, it was a sack fumble, and they called it unnecessary roughness. You saw Brady always gets those calls. This is nothing new with there. But after what they saw with Tua and all the backlash they received, and you're gonna see this a lot going forward, where the sky cams and stuff are going to be monitoring, you know, player safety and pulling them if you see a wobble or a wiggle or whatever going on after a ding. And you're going to get dinged in football. There's no question. I mean, these guys are running high speeds, cracking each other. So, I mean, they're going to try to do what they can to protect the players. But at the same time, it's not like the game isn't a violent game. It's a violent game. You're going to have these injuries. So, I mean,
all right. So we're running out of time.
This is a self-imposed NFL problem. They wanted to stop evolution and create rules so these slow-footed quarterbacks could, you know, be the faces of the franchise and run it the way they are. Every quarterback should be similar to Lamar Jackson, and you should have backups behind them in a similar fashion. The athletes should match the athleticism on the field. So that's why we got all these targeting rules and everything else for the quarterback, because they have to try to figure out a way to legislate them to stay in the game.
Yeah, because they're like that. They got these heavy feet. They can't move in the pocket. They can't move out of the pocket so that they can adjust in another way. Isn't that what you're saying, Nas?
Yeah, so
but they have to protect the quarterbacks. They have to protect the quarterback in the pocket. If the quarterback takes off, and
the quarterbacks are athletes.
Okay, so we're running out of time.
You were just complaining about the softness of NASCAR and how NASCAR is getting pushier and all this other stuff. Now you're saying you got to protect the quarterback. What's going on? I mean, you can't have it both ways. You don't want NASCAR to go to electric cars.
He loves
then you want them to protect the quarterback in the NFL. You know what?
Okay. We're running out of time. I want to do. Excuse me. We're running out of time for sports, but we have someone. Hello from Argentina. Rolando Conmis Flo said hello from Argentina. So hi, Argentina.
Hola.
Hey.
They speak Spanish in Argentina, right?
So let's talk about Davante Smith.
Yes.
Wait a minute. Look, I thought we were done with sports. Now you're coming in with another.
No, I said we're almost done with the NFL, but we can't go off without talking about Davante Smith.
Haters going hate.
Go ahead, Steven, you go about Davante Smith. You got 30 seconds.
Why don't we talk about Davante Adams, who pushed a cameraman?
Yeah, I mean Adams.
Okay.
I mean Adams. I'm sorry.
He may be kicked out now. You know what? Davante Adams screwed up.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
You know, he screwed up.
I'm sorry, I meant Adams.
He was with a hot girlfriend, which was the Green Bay Packers, and then he left because the hot girlfriend was getting weird, and he didn't know if she was going to still be with him. So he went to another place where it was his old girlfriend, which was Carr. And he's like, I'm going to be with Carr because he's more solid. And then he's losing games, stupid games that they should win. They should have beaten Kansas City. And now they lost, and he was so mad. And then a cameraman jumped in front of him like he was the what was that, Lady Di. And then he was a paparazzi, and he just pushed him out the way. But guess what? He may be kicked out of football for a little while for doing that. But the man should not have gotten in his way. Davante Adams was really upset after the game.
It doesn't matter. Aguna. That could have been a woman. It could have, when you walk on that walkway, it's cement. It's not soft grass. If he had done that to me, I would have called the cops and I would have pressed charges. If he had been in the street and did that, he would have been bailing himself out of so-and-so jail.
Okay.
These guys go too far.
I know we're going to sensationalize this, but it is rough game.
How can you not?
Emotional game. Can I finish, please?
Right.
These guys are human beings, right? So imagine you just got off. You were out there on the road. People are spitting at you, throwing all this. When you see what these guys go through on a daily basis, it's a lot. Now, I'm not sitting here trying to justify his actions or anything like that. But let's not pretend like these guys aren't human beings. They don't get emotional. They don't have trauma. They don't have these things. And you're just coming off, and he's an athlete. He's a competitor. He's walking out there, and all of a sudden you got these flashes. Everybody jumping in your face, want to get that money shot of you at a point in time where you're like really trying to process and get things through and also ramp down off of the adrenaline needed to even survive this game. I mean, you're coming off of this high, this emotional roller coaster, and all of a sudden someone jumping in your face with the camera trying to get that money shot of you or trying to sell that, all that stuff. Yeah, you may lose it a little bit and be like, just leave me alone. Let me go and do what I got to do. Let me get out of here, right? Kansas City is a hard place to play in. It's crazy. So, yeah, not to make any excuses, but these guys are emotional. I get it. I understand.
That's an excuse.
See it on the little league fields all the time where these kids, they let the emotions get the best of them sometimes, and it just happens. Now,
they're not children.
No.
Excuse me.
But if you're going to protect players, my last point is this. If they're going to protect players, if they want to protect the quarterbacks, they want to protect all these players, they need to also protect them from the exposure to all these cameramen and stuff like that. They shouldn't be authorized to get down there on the field. Give the players space, and it wouldn't happen.
All right. Excuse me. You sound crazy.
Right on, dude. You're exactly.
You sound crazy. No, I'm going to finish my point. Nas, I'm going to finish my point. You sound crazy to say don't let a cameraman come on the field when you get paid millions of dollars to be seen playing is insane. He wasn't a cameraman. First off, he had lighting and some other things up there. So he's needed on there so you can be seen. Secondly, these guys get paid. Excuse me. I didn't say anything when you were talking. These guys get paid millions of dollars to play. They can't take a few cotton candy bags on their head. They can't take a few of those other things on the head. They get millions. This comes with the job. Everybody that does a job knows the perks and the not so good perks of their job and with it. Any job you have, you know what the not good things are and you deal with it. Why are they any special than anybody else? And for him to just go and push them is outrageous. It's wrong. And you've got to start calling wrong, or you won't know when it's right and when it's wrong. Go ahead, Nas. Y'all gonna get me fired up.
You can get fired up. Leave the players alone. Give them space. They should protect them. You're gonna protect them. Protect them. Yeah, he's getting paid millions of dollars.
Go ahead, Nas. I muted him.
Not a slave.
Wrong for what he did. He shouldn't have pushed the guy. He didn't even try to help the guy out. Help the guy up after he did it. He was wrong. But I'm not going to go too far and start talking about jail and stuff like that. He's probably going to be suspended for a game. He's going to get hit with a fine. When Dennis Rodman did this years ago in Chicago, when he kicked that cameraman by the court, he paid $200,000. So I'm assuming with inflation, Davante's looking at a pretty penny because this guy should sue him. I'm sure he's being contacted by lawyers and everything else. He should sue him. But the NBA did move cameramen back a little further under the basket because they didn't want that situation to happen again. So should the NFL explore the idea of, okay, cameras or lighting guys should probably not be in the way as they're heading towards the tunnel. Like that last shot is probably not that important. So yeah, they should adjust that as far as, them being there right at the moment when the player's walking off, disappointed, mad, or whatever. But no matter what, Davante got paid for this, man, because he's wrong. Like, you can't do that to somebody. It's assault.
Right. It's assault.
And
wrong is wrong.
They can fine him, but let him play the game. Don't kick him out of the next game. That's wrong.
Again, this is like modern day slavery. Like modern day slavery.
He's the one that got to make the ruling, so we'll see.
No, I do think there's some accountability. They're making a lot of money. They need to, hold themselves in, certain regards. But it's an emotional sport. I don't know. Nobody on here has played in the NFL.
He can pay that photographer $1 million. He can pay that photographer $1 million. Don't take the game away from him.
It's still messed up, though. I mean, that's their. I mean, if someone came into your job and threw a picture, trying to take pictures of you, even though you're getting paid, and even though you may know that it's part of your job, you're not gonna like it. So sometimes it just happens. I'm not saying this.
All right. So if Todd comes and punches somebody in the face, punches somebody in the face, like Stephen or Keith or something they said, then don't let him off the show. Let him stay.
No,
I mean, don't. I mean, he's just very, very passionate about the show.
Be on the show next week. We will sue him for a lot of money, maybe $50, but then whatever he can afford.
Yeah, we'll give Todd a fine. We'll say Bad Todd on his little name.
He's got to be on the show because we don't have a show without him.
And you sound crazy.
The NFL doesn't have a show without Davante.
Guess what?
Davante
you sound crazy. You sound crazy. One monkey stops no show.
Todd, no one monkey stops
no show.
Terms for a week.
You sound crazy.
Hey,
one monkey stops no show.
Like I do in fantasy.
Don't get it twisted.
Aguna, do you have Davante like I do in fantasy?
No, I don't. I wish I did, but I don't.
Well, I do, and I'm very serious about this. Don't make him miss any games.
Yeah, he had about 16 or 17 points this past week.
And look, wait a minute. Let me say to Stephen. Stephen, look at your look. You're trying to impress Keith because this look today is pretty good. And then you had those glasses on. That's a good.
Did he shave his mullet? He shaved the mullet. He shaved his mullet. Hey, what are you doing over there?
Okay.
Hey, you must be going to White House.
He's trying to get married.
That's to you, Todd, not Keith.
So of course there's no other questions for sports before we move on to politics.
I want to talk about sports.
I know Keith. Keith and Todd know nothing about sports.
Excuse me. I know about sports. Listen.
You want to talk about Serena?
I don't want to talk about Serena. I want to talk about the NBL. No.
Pickleball. You want to talk about pickleball?
Hurry up. We're almost out of time.
This is what I wanted to say about the Eagles. They have been playing well, and they won 5 straight. So they're really good. And if they keep up this good work, they can probably win the World Series.
But can they beat Dallas this week?
Yes, ma'am.
That's the Cowboys.
So let me
look
at my screen. Look at my screen. President Biden is pardoning. Yes.
Yes, ma'am.
And he's going to pardon all federal offenses of simple marijuana possession. Wait a minute. I'm trying to pull up in first major steps towards decriminalization. And he's doing this so he can get Cousin Todd's vote. Right, Cousin Todd?
You already got it.
Yes, ma'am. And then, too, what he's doing is trying to right wrongs. I don't expect Keith to agree. because it helps out people that look like him and his mother. But
wait.
Yes,
you're crossing.
sir.
God, you're about to cross the line. Let's stop.
Okay, so like I was trying to say, this war on drugs started with Nixon, actually, not Ronald Reagan, but with Nixon. And it was all a ruse because he didn't like black people. So he figured what better way to get them than locking them up for petty crimes. And as a matter of fact, Nixon said marijuana was the worst drug known to man. So what would that say about cocaine or heroin? So nevertheless, this war on drugs where people were arrested just for possessing marijuana, not distributing, trying to sell it, just for having it, you get 5 to 10 years. That is the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of. And it's obvious. Just like where you got cocaine, if a white person is found with cocaine, you get a certain amount of time in jail. But if you're found with crack, you get more time. So it was all a scam, and which is what Joe Biden is trying to rectify.
All right.
Why
should be
black
legal.
People just do cocaine and not crack? Why did black people have to go to crack and not cocaine?
It's cheaper. So, but now white people have always done more drugs than blacks, always. But it's the blacks that are arrested for it.
So, Keith, are you going to vote for, or do you think that President Biden will get more votes come 2024 when he runs for re-election because he's decriminalized marijuana?
Well, he might. There are people who are like Todd and Aguna who don't seem to really, and Naj, they don't really, it doesn't matter what he does. They'll probably support it. So,
well, let's talk about this specifically.
I think, yes, I think I would answer your question by saying, yes, there will be people who will vote for him because he decriminalizes marijuana.
And do you think it's a good idea to decriminalize
it? He didn't do it.
The question of marijuana.
He didn't decriminalize marijuana.
But he seems to answer, is the marijuana of today of the same strength as the marijuana back in my day? I wonder. And I would say no. The marijuana back in my day, when I was a kid, and when I was in high school, that marijuana was certainly a lot softer than the marijuana today.
Have you tried both?
About the 50s?
Have you smoked both? You smoked it then and now?
Because I was working with kids, and kids had marijuana, but it was laced with other stuff. It could be, I don't know.
We're not talking about lacing. We're talking about marijuana.
Marijuana is not the same potency today as it was.
How do you know? Have
ago.
You smoked it recently?
I know because I was told that by people who smoke it.
Oh, that's hearsay.
I mean, that to me
that's hearsay. Go on and get high.
So
you and Stephen go and get high and let me know.
And they commit a crime. They get out. They lose control of their faculties. Then that's when the crime is committed.
Hey, Keith.
All right. Okay.
Marijuana. That's not true. People who smoke marijuana do not lose control of their faculties.
Exactly.
Marijuana is a relaxant. They don't lose control. People lose control when they drink too much. Marijuana is a relaxant. Marijuana has qualities. That's why they have medical marijuana that actually helps people that have anxiety issues and other things like that. Marijuana is actually good for people.
What if you mix marijuana?
The pharmaceutical companies has made marijuana an enemy, so they could make people take medication that's not good for them. Marijuana is a good thing.
Things. Is that okay?
Okay, so Aguna.
No matter what Biden does, Biden can do something that is maybe fiscally responsible or lowering government outreach, and it will still be seen by some folks as being bad. Marijuana, I mean, look at the science, look at what's going on. I mean, you're locking people up for petty crimes. What does that do for them later in life where, they can't vote, they also can't get jobs, they can't contribute to the economy? right? If you decriminalize, and Stephen's right, he didn't decriminalize it. He just pardoned the people that were first-time offenders or whatever, based
simple
on
possession.
For simple possession. So he made those changes. And I mean, you think about it, think about our criminal justice system and how of a burden it is, not only on society, but as we as taxpayers. You know, you can repurpose, you know, police resources instead of going after these types of offenses to things that really are bad, like murder and things like that. And again, you know, people have fear about marijuana being these gateway drugs into other things, right? So there is that aspect of it, but there's also the aspect of, if you legalize it, you can tax it. You just like you tax alcohol, you can regulate it. So it's like, you know, maybe that is kind of bad because it expands government, but at the same time, you know, we're looking at government resources allocated to prosecute offenses that aren't really hurting society to the proportion that they think about it, right? It's another when I look at government control and overreach of federal government, like true conservatives or fiscal conservatives should do, Keith, wink, wink, you know, you got to take in consideration, you know, what's going on and you know, being able to, you know, should government really even be involved with this, right?
Right.
No.
Aguna, can I interject in Virginia? Can I interject in Virginia really quick, Stacey? In Virginia, you can grow your own marijuana, but you can't sell it. So what that does is take the criminal element out of it. But if you want to grow it in your own house, you can have marijuana for yourself. You don't have to go to any marijuana place and buy it. You don't have to buy it from anybody that could lace it, like Keith said, with anything else. You can grow your own. You know what you get. And that's what Virginia did. That's what every state should do. If somebody wants to smoke marijuana and they believe it's healthier than alcohol, which it is, healthier than cigarettes, which it's scientifically proven to be better than cigarettes.
Wow, Stephen is talking about science. We need to record this show.
Scientifically proven, then that people can grow it for themselves in their own houses, on their own property, then why not have that? Why have an element of the dirty drug dealer that can sell you stuff that Keith was saying they could have fentanyl in it or whatever else that could screw you up or kill you? Why not grow your own?
Okay, thank you. Let me hear from
Nas. That's why I'll applaud Virginia.
And we have to move on.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, let's get into the good and the bad. So the good of this is another step towards legalization and also normalization of marijuana and people not looking at it with some of this old reefer madness propaganda they were fed when they were, you know, younger. So this is a good thing.
In the 1930s.
Right. Now, the bad side of this is because it's federal, we're talking about the least amount of people who are locked up for marijuana because we're talking about federal prisons, not state prisons. So this isn't going to affect as many people as Biden is getting good headlines for doing this. He's actually getting more PR for this than he actually deserves. So this is going to go to the state government on what they want to do in each individual state. So a lot of them states, because this is so popular, they're probably going to ride with Biden and actually, you know, fulfill this. But when you go to more red states where everything Biden does has to be, you know, a negative, they're probably not going to do this. That's also the states where you have most of these, you know, private prisons where, you know, the correction officer union and everything else has been, you know, dumping money into the Republican Party to stop the legalization of marijuana because that would do what? Put them out of business. So Biden's getting really good headlines for this. And again, it's a step in the right direction, but it's being presented as if he legalized or if he retroactively was removing sentences from prisoners who were locked up in state prisons, which is where the majority of people locked up for marijuana are. So he's getting way more pub for this than he should. But it's a step in the right direction.
So if we're going to step in the right direction and we're going to talk about, I was talking about Biden getting votes for it. Let's go into elections and let's talk about these November elections and talk about Hershel Walker in particular, who was accused of paying.
Did you see his glasses, Stacey?
No, I didn't see his glasses. What's up with his glasses?
At his last presser, he's wearing smart guy glasses now.
Oh, so tell us, Nas, you're down there in the ATL, and I'm showing this article that says now Walker says he knows the woman who said he paid for an abortion and maintains she's lying. So he's basically they're saying he's contradiction walking. He's saying, and this article is wait a minute, by Politico.com, written by Kelly Garrity on October 11th at 5:29 p.m. So he says he knows nothing about an abortion. He's currently engaged in a neck-and-neck race with Senator Raphael Warnock in Georgia. He said in an interview, he told ABC News that I knew it was a lie and I said it was a lie and I just move on. And that's why I said it's sad that people said October surprise, but you're destroying families. So how are people taking it in Georgia? And will this make a big difference in the race with him and Senator Warnock, Nas?
Well, like you can go back to 2016. This is like 2016. It's directly separate in Georgia. So the people who are willing to overlook all of Trump's flaws and make excuses for everything, those are the same voters who would do the same for Hershel down here. So in the red areas where the Brian Kemp voters and people who've always typically voted Republican, they're willing to hold their nose and vote for Hershel. But the blue areas of Georgia and some of the more purple areas of Georgia, Raphael, Warnock, who has kind of a good record down here for what he's done this last term. And also, remember, this is a guy who's a pastor at Ebenezer Baptist Church, the legacy of Martin Luther King. We're talking about a pastor here. So in those areas, Warnock is doing really well. So that's kind of why the race is tight. But ultimately, when it comes to Hershel, most of this stuff doesn't matter because those people are willing to vote for anything that says R next to it. So initially he denied the claims and the Daily Beast kind of held back on their reporting. And then after he denied it, they brought out that this was one of his other baby mothers who made the claim. And she also has the get well card with his handwriting on it. They've got the text messages from Hershel to the kid, where every couple of months in the middle of the night, Hershel would text the kid, "I love you." And the kid would ask, "Are you going to come to my baseball game?" And Hershel's response was, "I love you." So it's a weird thing, but this is, another one of his baby mothers. And they tried to present it as if this was just some person looking for money or something like that.
He didn't know who it was.
Hershel Walker, Hershel's son, making the accusations about Hershel, saying he was never actually in his life. He's a liar. He's trying to present himself as a man of God, when in actuality, they were running for their lives at times, had to move 4 different times in a 2-year span to run away from Hershel's violence against his mother. And then we have this story where Hershel, who's running a campaign where he's saying abortion should be illegal and abortion is wrong, and he's against abortion. We have this clear case of one of his baby mothers exposing that Hershel paid for an abortion with her, sent her a get well card, and here we are.
So
they don't care. Either they don't believe that happened, or they don't care that happened. And see, look, Stephen knows because he was there. He was there when she got pregnant.
It's not true.
So Keith, what's interesting about Georgia is it's not so much of a red state anymore. It really is turning. So if you look at that, how can you or any other GOP member support someone like Hershel Walker, who, basically paid for this woman to get an abortion, said he's against it, but yet he went for it for his own child
and held a gun to his wife's head.
It's not true. Tell him, Keith, it's not true. It's a lie.
He said he did not. He didn't. He said it was a lie. So have they proven him wrong? A liar?
Yeah, he paid for the abortion with a check.
Right. He did not. That was the mother of his child. He sent a check to.
Okay, we gotta. Keith, you can't ask. Keith, Keith, this is your turn to talk. You can't ask questions if you want to have some time to talk about the contradiction and the support of someone who is so contradictory.
Well, I
get off of that and talk about him holding a gun to his wife's head.
Talk when I'm interrupted so much.
Go ahead.
I will say that I don't know. I mean, who knows the truth about this? I mean, I don't know. I don't know the truth. So he says he didn't. They say he did. Everybody else on this show is accusing him that he did. So, he paid for an abortion. But all I'll say is that if he did pay for an abortion, that was the responsible thing to do. And certainly, he shouldn't lie about it for abortion. That was the responsible thing to do.
Way to punt. So
you know what I mean? And then all of the people and wait a minute. All the people who
I gave you the chimes.
All of the people
you're in the process of punting it, Keith.
All of the people who are in favor of a woman's right to choose ought to be hilariously happy because she chose an abortion, just what they like, and he paid for it. So it's all done. All right, that's the way they should.
So Aguna, my question to you is, as a Republican, how can you support Hershel Walker blindly based on what you're learning?
I mean, you don't. I mean, this is not the best the Republican Party can do in Georgia. I mean, to say anything to the contrary is just flat out ridiculous. This guy's a clown. I mean, he's a clown. Yeah. I mean, I'm one of the old school Republicans that actually look at the platform and hold the party accountable for actually having policy conversations, not this blind ideology nonsense where you see a clown as a candidate and somehow you want to close your eyes and just vote R. What is Hershel Walker going to do to move the needle for the people of Georgia as far as low taxes, smaller government? He's not talking about all this stuff. He's running around here babbling about him being a poor old country boy, don't know nothing and all. Come on, that's not the best we can do down there. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who sits there and tries to run up to and not do anything legislatively to help the people of Georgia. It's up to the people of Georgia to decide. But if that's the best they can do for a Senate, we're not talking about House. We're not talking about mayor. We're talking about a senator from Georgia who can't really articulate any plausible platform in the Republican Party. Yet you want me to sit here and say, oh, it's wrong, or, let's deny the facts and all this. No, the dude's a clown. Get him out of here. It's not the best we can do. He hasn't articulated one policy discussion that what's he going to do. He's just running as a figurehead, a yes man. He has no business being a candidate, period. And to do so and to endorse him is just making you look like a Yahoo and a fool. So I'm not going to sit there and join that clown show. I want to see clowns. I'll go to the circus.
Okay, Stephen, you got to be quick.
There's only one source that says this without any representation that says this, that he paid for an abortion, and it's not true. It is a bad source. It is a far left source that is trying to cut him down because he's making waves. There's one source. This is a mother of one of his children that he sent $700 to in a check, not for an abortion, because an abortion doesn't cost $700. He sent it for his child that he had with this woman. And this is a lie that is made up by one source. So check your sources before you comment, because nobody on this show knows what they're talking about. Hershel Walker is a good guy.
What's his stance? What is a policy that he's going to invoke as a senator?
He's a good guy. Look at Warnock. Look at who he's running against.
I'm looking at my brother.
He tried to run over his wife with his car. The guy Hershel Walker is going against tried to kill his wife. So talk about Hershel Walker paying for an abortion. That's a lie. That's not true.
Yeah, but we want to believe you. You're saying the truth.
We kind of got just a correction, man.
Look it up.
All right, Cousin Todd, finish it up.
And
Go back to growing marijuana in your basement, Stephen.
Okay,
you're
this
invited,
is the thing.
You're invited.
Let's skip over the abortion thing, which he's always for abortion. But let's skip over that.
Not.
What about him holding a gun to his wife's head? Well, he said he did. I was mentally unstable, and now I got.
Actually published it in his book. It's in his book, Stephen. He said that.
Well, I don't believe it. I don't believe
what he wrote in his own book. That's a far left conspiracy to incriminate him. I don't believe what he wrote in his own book.
He's going against.
So anyway, listen, this is the thing. The man is mentally unstable.
No, he's not.
He said he was.
Would you let him be your senator, Stephen?
Yeah, he does be a senator.
Over Warnock, who tried to kill his wife.
No. Would you vote for him as a senator? I don't care who he's running against. I'm asking about him as a man, as a candidate.
You don't care about women.
So the guy who may have pulled off too fast and almost run over someone's foot You think he tried to kill the person, but the person who published in a book that they put a gun to the woman's head.
Car towards a person and runs over their foot. He was trying to run over them.
You see that, audience? That's what you call a Yahoo pivot that Steven just did. He didn't even address the question.
All right.
About something else.
I got to move on. I want to talk about, does anyone, not us in particular, do you have anything to say how the race is going for Brian Kemp versus Stacey Abrams?
Well, it's kind of, well, this one is a little different. It's not as like quick and easy to see where the dividing lines are, because Stacey has kind of made a lot of inroads in South Georgia and rural Georgia and some really red areas where typically Democrats aren't popular, because she kind of created this outreach chain that's in Georgia over the past 4 years. So I think she's going to surprise a lot of people with how well she does in this election. Like Brian Kemp still has, that red coalition there, but there's a lot of that has kind of been turned off by him and turned a little more purple, which is why we saw Trump didn't win Georgia last time. So that was kind of an indicator of how well Stacey Abrams was going to do. And again, on this very show, Stacey, you played the audio of Brian Kemp's last, election commercial to get an idea on what he's about. He's continuing to do that. And we're also having the same problem election-wise with Brian Kemp and his connection at the Office of Secretary of State, where last time they did a cross-check and remove voters from the rolls. There's a lot of good research out there where they're telling people to keep checking to see if you're being knocked off the voter registration roll, because Brian Kemp proved he's willing to do that to win the election last time.
Okay.
This one is a little more interesting.
Okay, Aguna, gas prices. I said that President Biden went with his hat in his hand to Saudi Arabia to ask them to, hey, loosen up, and let out more oil so we can get this gas. Now OPEC said, guess what? We're cutting the coffers. We don't care what Biden said. Aguna, how's that going to affect our inflation and our push towards a recession?
So here's the thing, and we don't have enough time on the show to really talk about the nuances of the global oil market and why prices are truly high in this country, primarily because of what President Obama did when he allowed domestic oil companies to sell overseas in the global market. So it really doesn't. So OPEC as a cartel, it can cut or produce more or go up and down, but because we have a global economy and because Russia is part of OPEC, selling to India and China and all this other stuff, it really doesn't matter what Saudi Arabia does. Now, from a perception standpoint, of course, oil brokers who are the middlemen are going to use whatever war, whatever sensationalized media headline to sell and buy oil futures, which is the reason why the oil prices go up and down. Has nothing to do with drill, baby, drill. Has nothing to do with all these other factors, because it's really going to take 5 to 10 years for you to actually identify it well and really get it out. But then at the end of the day, they don't have to sell it domestically. They can sell it on the global market for much more than domestically. So unless you want to go to some type of socialist country where private oil companies in the U.S. can't sell overseas, you're going to have this fluctuation in oil markets, right? Like we're having now. Now, of course, what's going to happen is OPEC is going to, cut back oil supplies. And if you follow the oil market, I think oil is right around $85 a barrel right now. And it's not proportionate. It doesn't correlate to the actual prices at the pump. So there's a lot of price gouging going on. Oil companies are having record profits. It's not like we have oil shortages. They're just hedging the price of oil. They're self-inflating the price of oil. So it's not like you can drill your way out of this. It all comes down to supply chain and the oil company's ability to set the market. If you truly want to be energy independent, I said this before on this show, buy a Tesla, get off of oil. Stop buying, don't go and buy an electric vehicle if you truly want to be energy independent. Nobody wants to be energy independent, because when I look at my 401k and I look at the stocks that I own, there are oil stocks in that. So in some form or fashion, the American economy is rolling because of the oil sales, but nobody wants to talk about that.
Hey, and can I ask you one question? before y'all move on?
Go ahead, Nas.
Could there be some type of regulatory agency or idea where you say, okay, if you want to speculate on oil, you also actually have to pay for the capacity to hold said oil?
And see, now, and to that point, no, I mean, if there is, you wouldn't see the prices go the way they are right now, because you have a middleman that's not even holding on to that supply, being able to set the price without sight unseen, supply untouched. So to your point, if the government,
how does that affect me?
How does that affect
every day? How does that affect the everyday person like me going to work?
They're setting the price for oil. They're setting the price of oil. They're inflating the price without even having to store or have to worry.
We could produce more than OPEC when Donald Trump was in office.
That's not true.
We produced more than OPEC.
And here comes the
nonsense. That is true. You are a liar.
Under Biden, there are more oil licenses issued under Biden.
We produce more oil in this country than they do in OPEC.
You're not going to talk facts. You're just going to talk blind.
You're a liar.
No, it's not.
Joe Biden shut it all down.
Again, here we go. What time is it? Is that time for Stephen to go on his diatribe of nonsense?
You are either ignorant or you're complacent.
Don't attack me. Just attack the facts.
We
Don't
had
get mad at me.
energy
Get mad at the facts.
independence in this country. And if you said we don't, like you have no
you're
simply a
you're
liar.
About. You have no clue what you're talking about.
Donald Trump
check
said
this out,
so we do.
How many oil licenses were issued?
If we had the capacity to produce more oil than OPEC, we would be a member of OPEC. That's a simple thing to understand. Like, the best way to explain this, I tried to explain this to somebody the other day, and I said, look, just think of it like cocaine. If you were selling cocaine and your rival was Pablo Escobar, guess what?
You better have as much as he has.
Cocaine for, if you piss him off, he can always sell cocaine cheaper than you. And eventually, one of you is going to run out of cocaine. And guess what? It ain't going to be Pablo Escobar. So
here's the thing, Stacey. This is my last point.
Draw in the sand and draw oil really cheaply and really expensive, really good crude oil that doesn't have to be refined that much. You compare that to America, where you're talking about, look, like the Keystone Pipeline thing went down because what? It was going to be too expensive, and it was going to be a really bad pollutant that nobody wanted to pay for.
And people like Stephen and Keith don't want an oil refinery.
That's not
people like Stephen and Keith don't want an oil refinery in their backyard. You know, there's no, especially a state-of-the-art one, right? So they're not going to build an oil refinery in this country, yet they're going to come on the show and babble about Trump being energy independent. There's no such thing as energy independence.
Right.
It's a farce. It's a talking point that's never been proven.
And also, during the Trump years, we did sell the oil refinery in Port Arthur, Texas, to Saudi Arabia. So that is one part of Trump's legacy. Also makes you wonder why they gave him and his son-in-law $2 billion. But that's another story, Stephen. You maybe want to look into it.
All right. So let's look at this article I shared here on screen.
Stephen ran off the show. He's upset.
President,
went home.
Look at this. President Joe Biden's stark warning this past Thursday night that the world faces the highest prospect of nuclear war in 60 years was not based on any new intelligence about Russian President Vladimir Putin's intentions or changes in Russia's nuclear posture. The U.S. still has seen no evidence that Putin is moving toward using Russia's nuclear capability, nor is there any intelligence showing he's decided to do so. But Biden's comments, according to this article, laid out in starker terms than other U.S. officials have used to date, reflected heightened concerns inside his administration about the risk of Russia carrying out a nuclear strike in Ukraine, where Russian forces have recently faced a string of defeats. This, to me, is worrying. If the president of the United States is doing this and thinking this, and his administration is feeling this way, you ought to be worried too. This was an article written at CNN Politics by Phil Mattingly, Jeremy Diamond, and Kevin Liptak, updated 10:31 a.m. on Friday, October 7th. Why should you not be worried, Stephen?
I thought he took his ball and went home.
No, he's back.
Wait.
He had to water some of his marijuana plants. He's back.
Wait a minute. Wait. I got to get Stephen. Wait. You can go after Stephen. Nas, go after Stephen. Go ahead. Go ahead, Stephen.
Hey, Nas, calm down. We have a war going on. Nas, why don't you mute his mic? We have a war going on right now between two countries, two factions, and one of these countries has more nuclear weapons than anybody, and that's Russia. That's Putin. He has more nuclear weapons than anybody. So everybody should be concerned right now. It's not crazy to be concerned that nukes are not on the table, because he was forced into this war, because he wouldn't have gone into this war if not for the ineptitude of Joe Biden and what he had done in Afghanistan, and was such a weak leader of this country. This would not have happened under Trump or Reagan or anybody else that had any testicular fortitude. It will only happen under Joe Biden. This is the problem. This is why this country and the world is going to hell. It's because of Joe Biden.
Oh, you
and
have
these
gotten
people
radical.
On the show that support him are the useful idiots that will be the ones that are celebrating their own demise. Not people like me, not people like Keith. We understand.
Not people like me. We love Trump.
Real. This is real, and y'all are too stupid to understand what's going on. I don't want to say that, but I have to, because this man has more nuclear weapons than we do. He has more capacity than we do. And
we're running out of time
right now. And our country has been giving money to the Ukraine in open market. We've been openly giving money to the Ukraine and supporting them. You don't think we're pissing off Putin? We are. So is nuclear option?
Thank you.
Piss off Putin.
So I'm going to go to Keith next. Wait a minute. Let me go to Keith.
What? Let him be pissed off.
Let me go to Keith.
We're going to be everything.
Steven, you got to stop, honey.
Screwed up because they're going to destroy us.
Okay,
thank you.
We should be scared of Russia. Got you.
Biden's nuclear warning is not based on new intelligence, but based on what I read, Keith, shouldn't you be worried if the president of the United States is worried? And I'm not talking from a Christian perspective, because I know that's where you're speaking from, but I'm talking about from a general perspective about things that humans can do.
Well, the things that humans can do is fail, obviously, because that's why we have a failed administration right now. You see, we're all in this kind of trouble, and this did not happen during Trump's reign. When Trump was in office, we didn't have any problem with Russia or with Putin. We didn't have any problem with North Korea. We had, he even visited the old North Korea guy. And yet now we have all this problem, all these wars, or this war. And so it's going to continue as long as Biden's in office, because he's weak. Biden is not a negotiator. He's weak. And, Putin's having a field day. So it's going to continue.
Thank you. Nas.
Can we stop the propaganda?
I think it's irresponsible. I think, matter of fact, like, this is why sometimes people from a different era continue to hold certain sentiments about, the new world or the new day that they're living in. So all these Cold War acolytes who are around Biden, who think in a similar fashion, I can see them coming to this conclusion. But ultimately, when you're talking about DEFCON 3 or DEFCON 4, a nuclear annihilation, I feel like that's not something you lay into the laps of the citizenry. This is why presidents get gray hair and ulcers in the stomach while they're in office, because they have to deal with the tough issues, weigh the pros and cons, and that's something that you deal with. But you don't spread that out on the kitchen table for everybody else as if that's their problem. It's like, no, you have this issue going on with Russia, and we're going to have to figure out a way to solve it. But the idea that, we're all going to die, nuclear, like, no, that's not a responsible way to handle that. There was no reason for that escalation in language. So, yeah, I think Biden is wrong for even addressing that in that way. And to go to the previous two people who I'm not sure if they should be speaking about anything, but the previous two people, where they talked about the weakness of Biden, like, that has nothing to do with anything. You think this man planned out a whole military campaign based on who's president in the United States?
Okay, thank you.
His idea was he didn't like the missiles of NATO being so close to their border, and they didn't want another member to join, and he felt that was a use of force, and he would respond in in kind. So we got this tit for tat thing going on, which we've always seen, but to narrow this down to the weakness of Biden or whatever problems you have with Biden is nonsense. And as far as Trump, he paid off North Korea. He actually made a deal with North Korea, gave them money, and Trump was almost impeached for trying to do a quid pro quo with Zelensky for what? The Ukraine. So I don't even understand what you guys are talking about. At a certain point, I think you guys have to sit at the little kids' table. You're not ready for adult conversation yet.
Thank you. Aguna, address that and also that virtual G7 meeting today that the president had.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, so look what happened. And of course, for those
Make it quick, Aguna. You can't take a half hour. We got 2 minutes.
So here's the thing, all right? Putin didn't want an expansion of NATO. Guess what happened? More people joined because of the aggression that he showed. So by baiting him into this conflict, Biden actually became stronger and more influential around the world. He sold more weapons to the Ukraine, which they are being demonstrated right now and holding Russia back. You think Russia, a former superpower, is getting bogged down in a former Soviet republic? You think that looks good? You think Putin's actually proud about that? He should have, in the old Soviet Union, he would have taken the Ukraine in 3 days. It's almost 9 months later, and he's in retreat. They're blowing up infrastructure in previously Russian occupied territory. So he's he's exposing Putin, and he's making him look weaker, and he's actually Biden has actually elevated himself on the global stage because of that. And Trump was inept in all of this. And to sit here and say that people were actually scared of him or he actually held the world in check when they were actually laughing at him, when he actually didn't know what he actually almost got kidnapped by going to the DMZ. The whole Secret Service was all crazy because he went there with no conditions. He elevated a rogue nation like Korea as if they were actually, no other president even recognized that state. He went over there and we're celebrating and keep, I mean, it's crazy. You're like a clown there celebrating visit a rogue nation that no other nation or no other G7 member acknowledge. I mean,
Aguna, G7. Why virtual meeting with G7? Because COVID numbers are rising in China and Europe?
No, I mean, the first thing, we have the technology to have these conversations over the web. We don't have to all meet in person. So by having a virtual G7 is actually saving taxpayer dollars by doing so. Okay, so we should applaud that. At the end of the day, the fact that we still have a G7 is telling. But again, Joe Biden, if it wasn't for Joe Biden, everybody, the world is going to crap. Look at the world. We're all falling apart. We're all going to hell in a handbasket because Joe Biden is just the worst president in the history of the world.
Okay, thank you. We're going to do our round table because we don't have much time left. We're out of time.
Before we do this round table, just let me make a quick comment on Stephen and Keith's appreciation for Putin.
How
we made Putin mad.
We love him.
You don't want to hear
it.
Shut him down. You don't want to hear it.
Stephen and Keith
you can do that later.
There was a time he would say,
you don't want to hear it.
You could do that later. Later. Okay. We're going to do our roundtable discussion, Todd, and I'll give you an opportunity to say that, but we don't have much time. I want to real quickly, everyone will start with Keith and Stephen, Naz, Aguna, and then Cousin Todd. It's going to be kind of a hodgepodge of things that we weren't able to cover during the show. So one, we're going to talk about the possible COVID spread in China and Europe and how that may, do you think it's coming to the United States? That's one.
Your voice is doing that thing again.
Okay. Two, Hurricane Ian and Democrats were already struggling in Florida with President Biden saying that the current governor of Florida is doing well. Does that make their struggle worse? And then three, there was one more, but I forgot what it was. Let's start with
Keith. Do you think
Keith
is going to remember any of that?
What do you remember, Keith?
You're muted.
You haven't asked.
He's muted himself. I didn't do it. I couldn't take him off mute. He did it himself.
You haven't asked the question.
Go ahead, Keith.
Again, he should be at the little kids' table.
I asked 3 questions.
You didn't.
I asked 3 questions.
You knew you would not know how to answer any of those questions. Go to Stephen first, and then he'll help Keith.
Go ahead, Stephen. Do you remember the questions?
No, I've been distracted. I just got distracted by something.
I know.
Weed, all that weed down there, man. Go ahead, get the irrigation system right.
Give it.
Come on,
Casey. No,
we can call it the Stephen
you
strain.
want me to tell you what I was distracted by? It's been a rough month.
Just
Hunter Biden's laptop. Again. Hunter Biden's laptop. I know it.
Stacey.
Okay.
Oh, you know the FBI told Mark Zuckerberg not to suppress the information.
Okay, all right, let's do this. No, let's do this. Let's do this. I'm going to switch it. I remember what the
was on the laptop. You know that?
Okay, I'm going to switch it.
Just say Dr. Fauci. Stacey.
No,
you know that.
Keith. Tommy Tuberville is a senator from Alabama. He made some racist comments this past weekend at a Trump rally. Do you think that he and other coaches like him, do you think that their athletes that played under them would appreciate what he's saying or vote for him today?
I have no idea. Racist comments are made all the time, apparently. I mean, everybody's offended by the slightest word, and they'll call it a racist word. And they'll say it's racism. And immediately everybody goes on the warpath. Those things
okay, so all right, let's stop right there.
Comments, Keith?
Stop right there. So, Keith, what would you like to say real quickly? What would you like to add real quickly?
What would I like to add about anything?
Yes.
Well, I would just say that, I'm going to, in the future, I've made a decision. What I'm going to do is I'm going to bring to the table, whenever you ask me a question, and if those guys are talking over me, I'm just going to be quiet until they're all done. And then when I do get a chance to speak, I'm going to read from the evidence that I show, showing the, my source, because Aguna and Todd and Nas are very good, very articulate at speaking about things that they have no source.
Source is the dark web.
They never give any source. All they say is start mouthing off about what they believe or whatever they.
Okay, thank you. All right, so, you can't go any further. You were able to say what you wanted to say. I got to move on. Stephen, I've got the article up. If you can look at it right now. Alabama Senator Tuberville equates descendants of enslaved people to criminals. Do you think his former?
I don't know the context of what he's talking about. I haven't seen the article. I really don't know. It equates descendants of enslaved people to criminals. Maybe I have no idea. Maybe somebody's trying to make something of something that's not there. Or maybe something.
All right. So Stephen, Stephen, just make a comment really quickly on whatever you want to make a comment about.
Hopefully one day we can all get together and we'll all work together for the betterment of this country, and we won't be at each other's throats over stupid crap that they put in front of us on one side or the other. And the people need to get together in every country, because your government doesn't give one damn about you. I don't care what government it is. They do not care about you as a people. So the people from every country need to get together and rise up and take control of the government the way the founding fathers of the United States wanted it to be. They wanted a very limited government. Right now, we have a government that's way out of control, that's weaponized against its people that have opposite views of them. The FBI, the Department of Justice, the Democrat Party, everything is against people that are against them, and that's wrong. That's what we have right now. We have a fascistic country right now.
You're going to let him go on and on?
The Democrat Party. It's from Joe Biden's party. And the people all need to stand up, because even the people on the side of Joe Biden, like the ding-dongs on this show, are just useful idiots. And you will be slaves as well.
Thank you. Thank you. Nas.
And take your time, Nas.
Use a new term.
Yeah. Well, as far as Tuberville, remember he made over $30 million as a college football coach. So that's how he made his money, his reputation, and everything else. He runs as a senator in Alabama, unlearned person that he is, never held a political office. He beat out Doug Jones, former prosecutor of the Ku Klux Klan, which kind of tells you where we are right now in this country. Where somebody as Tuberville can actually win a Senate seat. So his comments the other day weren't surprising, but ultimately the problem becomes when we get these people who make these racist comments like this, the question becomes, okay, we can criticize that person, but why does he have an audience for it? And that gives you an idea about the state of America right now. So Tuberville never ran political office, becomes a senator based on his background as a football coach. How ironic, when we have somebody running for a Senate seat who used to be a football player who has never held political office. So at this point, Republicans, y'all got to ask better for yourselves, man. Ultimately, the party despises you, sees you as useful idiots, which is why they don't give you candidates worthy of your ballot. And also, that's why they don't discuss policy with you. They just use culture war issue after culture war issue. You've had a war against Dr. Seuss, transgenders, and everything else, but nothing about how a government is ran, how you want your state to run, what you want the future to look like. We don't hear anything about that, which is why somebody like Brett Favre could steal millions of dollars from a red state like Mississippi with the help of Republican politicians who are actively texting him back and forth about how they were going to steal the money. And ultimately, these people who are so outraged about Dr. Seuss and whatever else Tucker Carlson tells them to be mad at, but they're not upset about that.
Thank you.
Stephen and Keith are prime examples of this. And you can kind of see the dysfunction and I would say lack of education and inability to critically think, which is showing on the right, which is now a fascist movement. And we've seen two fascist people run in the Republican Party. I'll stop there.
Thank you. Aguna.
Yeah, I mean, and
you don't even know what fascism is,
but this is who they are. Again, we didn't say anything during out their speech, but here you go. So this is who they are. At one point, I thought that maybe a Keith or a Stephen may have been brainwashed or they may have been fooled, but this is who they are, right? And so when you have people who have no empathy for the other side, they sit there and blame the left and they project their views on the left, but they never want to engage the left or even talk about. He says we want to get together, but when you have an opposite viewpoint, it's him that's attacking. It's him that's using the same grievance politics. And that's why, as a Republican, you can't sit here and defend egregious stuff. I mean, we've gotten to the point where you can't discuss policy. It's all a party of grievance. You got to scare people. If you're an immigrant, if you're calling people socialist, you're doing all the same things, ironically, that you heard back during the civil rights era to explain the people who don't look like you, who don't speak like you, who may not have the same culture as you, skin color as you. You're hearing all of that from the right trying to demonize people on the left. You never hear anybody saying right, left on here.
Can you talk about Senator Tuberville?
So Senator Tuberville, how about this? He said equate the descendants of slaves to criminals, right? How about ask the descendants of slaves how they feel about that? Okay, instead of sitting there and telling people what they should feel, ask the people who are actually who he's talking about how they feel about that statement. And guess what? As a descendant of a slave, I see Tuberville, some Yahoo idiot who shouldn't even be running for. Again, if you need a football coach and you don't have someone who, again, so for some reason, because Donald Trump ran on the gimmick of being president because he was basically an actor, he had a reality TV show. Now you're getting these gimmicky type candidates in the Republican Party who don't really understand policy, who don't really understand how to be a senator for the entire state, not for the people that just voted for you. And you have these people catering to their base and not really saying what they're going to do for the state of Alabama. And they can do better.
I want to think, I would like to talk to one of his former players, a lot of his former players, and ask them, how do they feel? Was he like that when they were coaching him? How do they feel?
As long as they run the ball, that's all he's using from what they needed to do.
Okay,
He
Cousin
doesn't do them
Todd.
anymore.
Former
There you
Arizona
go.
Cardinals linebacker Carlos Dansby has responded and talked about how he didn't expect this. He's really disappointed and sees him as less than a man and is ashamed to have played for one Tommy Tuberville. So Carlos Dansby has responded. I haven't seen many other responses.
Okay, thank you, Cousin Todd.
To go back to Hershel Walker, his own son said he never took care of him. He never cared about him. Sending him texts, "I love you," means nothing. So, mind you, that son is a flake. Anybody who can consider themselves a Republican with this Republican Party, these are all Trumpists. These are all Trump Republicans. So that's why I'm shocked at Stacey and Aguna for considering themselves to be Republicans. But and then the senator from Alabama, he's just a typical backwards country hick that doesn't like black people and wants the world to know it. And they used to be a little more subtle about it, but he's just outright with it, talking about reparations. He's the worst. And he should lose re-election. And I also wanted to talk about Florida, Marco Rubio. He's such a coward. He didn't even vote for flood relief for Florida. He didn't even vote. And it's his own state. He's such a coward with small hands, according to Donald Trump. But so I'm hoping Val wins that election. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, she's another quack that's talking about replacement theory. They're coming to replace you. Well, who did you replace? They always think America belongs to them, but it doesn't. If you are white living in America, you are a foreigner in somebody else's land. I'll stop there because we're running over.
Okay, thank you. Keith, one more thing. You're out there in Los Angeles. Do you want to tell us what happened with the Los Angeles Council member who made the racist comment? I almost didn't include that, Keith.
Well, I'm just hoping that they don't start a riot out here. But yeah, they're pretty upset. Like I said, those on the left, when they find out the true racists, one day maybe the black people will wake up and see the real racists of the Democrat Party, and they're the ones that should be paying reparations, if anybody. But they're finally waking up.
Folk heaven.
Well, what happened? What did the Los Angeles County Council member say?
Well, I don't have the exact words.
He has read it.
But she said that there was a boy who was at a Martin Luther King parade. He's adopted by a white couple, racist, adopted. A young black boy has been adopted, and by a white couple. And so she's making the statement that he was acting like a little monkey, and so people are pretty upset about it, I guess. One of those things. So that's
only racist see race.
Every 10 years in LA, they do redistricting, and she made it kind of clear that her group is going for self. She talked about one other council member said he's with the blacks. And she was talking about the Van Nuys Airport and some other areas that she wanted to make sure stayed under her power in her district. And she wanted to keep certain groups out. That would be blacks and whites and other people who are non-Latino.
And Nas, she's a Republican, right? Because only Republicans can be racist.
She is a Democrat. You are correct.
All right. Just wanted to make that
All right,
clear.
thank you.
Wow.
I did not include that.
It's back in the milk.
What is so big about that? So
only
there
racist
was
race,
also
Keith.
a
Only
racist
see race.
who tried to get the bird watcher arrested. She was a Democrat. So what? What does that matter?
There you go.
We want this anecdotal nonsense to
let me
prove
just
what?
Yeah, let me say this. There are there are Democrats who are racist, but
surprise,
the Republican Party is home for racists. Not every Republican is a racist, but every racist is a Republican.
Who ran in the Capitol with a
Confederate flag?
The Democrat Party is the party of racism.
Listen to me carefully. I said, not every Republican is a racist, but every racist is a Republican.
Am I a racist? Am I a racist too, you guys?
Yes, you are.
You're not even considered.
Well, I don't know if that's Todd. I don't know where you're getting that information from. I don't know if that's necessarily true, because I think you're probably omitting people who are Democrat who are racist.
I just said some Democrats are racist, but I said there is a home for racist people in the Republican Party. Not all Republicans are racist, but all racists are Republican.
All right,
Look, man.
We're out of time. We're out of time. We're way over time. We've never been this far over time.
This argument to give them some type of bravado or something.
Yes. We've never been to our first responders in our community.
Just another.
Thank you. You make our lives livable. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
White folk
to our men and women of the U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose on this show. We are forever.
What is Stephen doing? We can't read that, Stephen.
Aguna, I'm doing the outtake. Aguna, can I do the outtake?
Oh, sorry. Oh, go ahead.
The Democrat Party is the party of racism
on behalf
of Jim Crow.
Relax, Stephen. Go ahead.
To our U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we want on this show. We are forever indebted. Happy Hispanic Heritage Month. That goes from September 15th to October 15th. Happy National Coming Out Day, which is today, October 11th. On behalf of Aguna, let me make sure I do this right. The Nigerian moderate Republican.
Go Bills.
Stephen, the independent thinker.
Crazy.
Keith, the constitutional conservative.
Hey, you put dye in your hair, Keith? You put some dye in there.
And my cousin Todd.
With the perm and all, yeah.
And Nas, I must say today, we really appreciate you today, Nas. We needed you today, Nas, because Nas, you put a lot of meat into a lot of areas that Todd and Aguna were unable to do.
Thank you, Nas. We needed you.
Yeah,
he put a lot of. I already sent you the Cash App next week.
He put more tofu. He put tofu. He didn't put no meat. He put tofu.
Well, he put in with the sports because his teams are losing like crazy. Atlanta's losing to Philly like crazy.
I know.
Well,
I'm waiting for
Democrats. I'm the one that already said
to leave the Republican Party. Aguna must leave. He must go to a Democrat Party.
I don't believe in labels,
let's
Keith.
keep this
I know
conversation
labels
going.
going to drive your ideology, but stop labeling things. Put yourself.
Let's keep this.
Let's keep this conversation.
I'm sorry.
Going
keep this conversation going on Twitter. You can see us on Stephanie Stallworth's The Flow Network. You can check out our new Instagram page. You can see us on Twitter, Twitch, or what's that other thing? Twitter, Twitch, and TikTok. Yeah, that's it.
Star.
Stacey, are you going to plug Keith's Just for Men sponsorship?
I didn't get a dime from it. Did you? Did you get any money from it?
Or Brillo Cat RS?
I didn't get a dime. If I didn't get a dime, if I didn't get any money, guess what? You didn't get any money. I didn't get any money. You didn't get any money.
Did you wash it in, Keith?
It all goes back to
is jealous of you, Keith.
Thank you. We'll see you next week. We are live. First off, you can watch us on YouTube 24/7. Any of our previous episodes, we're live every Tuesday, 7:30 p.m. Be there, be square.
Join the Democrat Party. They're waiting for you.
Hey, stay out the Capitol. Stay out the Capitol, Stephen.
They're waiting for you, Aguna. The Democrat Party. They're waiting for you.
Yeah. They're waiting for you in white man's heaven, too. All the ambrosia you need.
Oh,
it's the best heaven.
The white man's
You're not
heaven.
gonna get there, Aguna.
Get the white man's heaven. Let's go. Come on, Uncle Ruckus. Get up there.
Yes. Yeah.
Better than going to black.
Make it there. Hey, they may make you serve some biscuits when you get in there.
Don't you dare. Don't you dare. You may have to serve.
You may have to serve when you get there, but you're going to get in there.
Heaven, we don't see color. In black man's heaven, they only see color. That's why nobody's in black man's heaven.
Hey, look, man.
Thank you, Nas. No, really, Nas.
When you say the joke, it's not funny.
Thank you, Nas.
When you say the joke, Stephen, it's not funny.
We appreciate that. And you know what I appreciate, Nas? Nas had that comment from Tommy Tuberville's former player. I really appreciated that.
Yeah. He plugged it in.
Thank you, Nas.
Facts.
Well, he's gone. See you later. Good night.